Welcome to the 1000 subscriber Q&A special. I previously did a Q&A special when we hit 300 subscribers on the channel, and I had such a blast with that Q&A that I knew I wanted to do another one, and hitting a 1000 subscriber milestone on YouTube seemed like the perfect opportunity to do one. And I have a ton of questions to go through today, so let's just get started. First question comes to us from Sega.2584, a good friend of mine named Shaun. We actually did a game room tour and interview with Shaun on the channel. I will leave a link to both of those videos in the description down below. He has an awesome game room, and I highly encourage you all to go check that out. And Shaun's question is as follows. What made you go for a complete GameCube collection over other systems? Do you plan to complete other sets also? If so, what is next? That's a great question, Shaun. The reason that I decided to go for a complete Nintendo GameCube collection is because the Nintendo GameCube is the console that shaped me as a gamer the most. It is the console that I have the most nostalgia for. Sure, I grew up playing the NES and the SNES and the Sega Genesis and the Nintendo 64. I grew up playing all those consoles when I was a kid, but when I got a Nintendo GameCube and started getting into gaming on the GameCube, that is what really shaped me as a gamer, and that's what really got me really heavy into gaming is the GameCube. And it's also the console that I have the most memories with, the console that I've probably played the most games on, the console that I owned the most games on whenever I was a kid. So because I have so much love, so much nostalgia for the GameCube, I knew that I wanted to complete that collection. And fast forward to today, I have a complete Black Label North American GameCube set, which, by the way, if you want to see more details on that, I will leave links to all of those videos in the description down below as well. Now, as far as what consoles I am going to try to get a complete collection for next, I'm probably going to go for the Wii U and the Sega Master System. The Sega Master System, actually both the Wii U and the Sega Master System, they don't have a lot of games, so they're fairly easy consoles to collect for. You know, they've got some expensive games, especially the Sega Master System, so it's not the easiest thing in the world. Well, you know this, Shaun, because you're a Sega collector yourself, so you know all about the Sega Master System. But those are definitely two consoles I'm going for. Also, the Nintendo 64, a cartridge-only collection, not the variants or anything. I just want at least one copy of every Nintendo 64 cartridge, and that's another one that is relatively easy to do, minus a handful of really expensive games. But yeah, thanks, Shaun, for the awesome questions. So the next question comes from Tara Victoria, and she actually has a similar question to Shaun, but with a twist. So we know you have a full GameCube set. If you could have a full set for any other console, assuming money wasn't an issue, what would it be? Tara, I really love this question because if money was not an issue, there's actually two consoles that I would get a complete set for, and that is the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, which you can't see down here. The Super Nintendo, because it has one of the best libraries in gaming, in my opinion, and there are a ton of amazing Super Nintendo games that I have yet to have an opportunity to play. The Sega Genesis, because that library is also massive with a ton of great games, but I feel like the Sega Genesis has a lot of hidden gems in it that a lot of people never talk about. And it's also a library that, although I did have a Sega Genesis as a kid, I've played a ton of Sega Genesis games, I've barely scratched the surface of what the Sega Genesis library has to offer. So if money was not an issue, I would immediately throw down the cash to complete both of those collections so that I could really start digging into that library without having to use ROMs in an emulator. The next question comes to us from My Collection of Video Games. Did you use the stimulus on video games? I haven't stopped working UPS driver, so it's kind of a bonus for me. I want little Samson. That's a funny question. I did not use the stimulus for video games, and the reason that I did not use the stimulus for video games because I have some debt that I desperately need to pay off. So all of that stimulus money just went to paying off some debt. I would have loved to have been able to spend that money on video games, but you know, sometimes you got to be a responsible adult. Not saying you're not a responsible adult. Hey, if you don't have any debt, and you've got a job and you're able to pay your bills and you can drop that stimulus money on some video games, have at it. I know I would in a heartbeat if I was able to, but sadly I had to put that money towards something productive because I have some big plans in the future that's going to require me to have money and very little debt. The next question comes to us from ReelRene, who I actually got to meet and talk to a lot on the set of the Game Chasers movie because he was shooting behind the scenes footage for the Game Chasers movie. Super nice guy, and he also has a lot of short films that I highly encourage you all check out. I will leave a link to his YouTube channels in the description down below. If you want to see some really awesome short films, you gotta check this guy out because he's very talented. And I see big things for him in the future. His question is as follows: where would you want to take the RetroWolf channel to, and any big goals you're planning for the future? You know, as far as where I want to take the channel to, really I just want to make it as good as I can possibly make it and provide the best content that I can possibly provide with what I have available to me. And I want to constantly improve it and make it better and better and better and better and improve the quality with each video. Now, I have done that since I started YouTube. If you go and look at my first few videos, whoo, they were bad. And then you compare them to today, I've just progressed leaps and bounds, I feel like. As far as where I would want to take the channel to, I do have some plans. We do have a podcast coming up that we're going to start doing. So that's very exciting. I hope that turns out well. And we've got some other videos and series that we want to do. As far as future plans go, I definitely want to get into filmmaking, and I'm working on that right now by investing in some equipment and practicing and gaining all the skills and knowledge that I'm going to need to be able to do some filmmaking. And possibly in the future, maybe I could do something like you're doing and do some short films that would be appropriate for the channel. So maybe some short films centered around the theme of video games or video game collecting. I kind of like that idea. So, you know, just have to kind of see where the path takes me and what happens. But one thing is for sure, I'm very excited about the future of the channel. I hope that I can keep, you know, making it bigger and better and bringing quality entertainment to the people that like to watch this channel. But great questions, man, and I cannot wait to see your next short film. The next two questions kind of go together hand in hand with one another. We have from Professor Y8X: which is the most special item in your collection? The most rare, the one that holds the most sentimental value? And then from JD the Mighty Me Spirit: what are the rarest games in your collection? So these are both great questions. Now, as far as the game that's the most special to me or the most sentimental to me, I've talked about this a couple of times in a couple of different videos, but that game would have to be Soul Calibur 2 on the Nintendo GameCube. And the reason for that is, and unfortunately this is not the copy that I originally had whenever I was younger. I really wish that it was my original copy, but that's just how these things go. But the reason that this game holds a special place in my heart and that it's very sentimental is because my brother is deceased. He's been deceased for well over 10 years now, and whenever I got off work, I used to work at a restaurant called Steak and Shake, and whenever I got off work on the weekends, I would go to his house and we would stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning playing video games. And one weekend, every night for just hours, we played Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube. We were addicted. We could not stop playing. Just a fantastic game. We had so much fun with it. We would just pass the controller back and forth trying to beat the different challenges and stuff and unlock everything. We would fight each other sometimes, but just hours and hours and hours of playing Soul Calibur 2, and those memories are very special to me. Those memories of my brother sitting down and playing a video game with him, and this game is the game that I have the most vivid memories with him as far as playing a video game. So because of that, it's definitely the most sentimental, and it has a very special place in my heart, and it's a game that I will always treasure and always remember. Now, as far as the rarest games in my collection, I have a lot of really rare games in my collection, and I'm not going to show any of the GameCube games that are rare in this video to answer this question, because there are a lot of them. I have every GameCube game, and you know, so I've got all the rarest GameCube games, which are also some of the rarest games in my collection. But if you want to see those, I do have a video talking about the rarest and most expensive GameCube games, and I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. But I do want to showcase a couple of other really rare games in my collection. Now, these are by no means all of them, but there are a few of the ones that I'm the most proud of. So, first off, we have this super mint copy of DuckTales 2 on the NES. Just super mint, really good condition, really clean, front and back, pretty much no damage. The label looks great, and it is authentic. I checked, I did a lot of research into that. And this is one of the heavy hitters on the NES. It's a very rare game, a very expensive game. Very proud to have that in my collection. And also for the NES, I got a copy of Metal Storm, which is another rare game on the NES. Very hard to find, very expensive. And the funny thing is, I got this in the biggest game lot I've ever picked up. It's a game lot that, well, let's just say it's over 2,000 items in this game lot, and I probably paid less than $1 per item. So I got Metal Storm on the NES for less than $1, if you want to be technical. And I'm very proud of it. It has a little bit of cosmetic damage on the corner of the label, but it doesn't look too bad. The back looks good. It's in relatively good condition, and the game works, and it is authentic. So very proud of that. And then the last thing I'm going to show is my complete in-box, really good condition copy of Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars on the Super Nintendo. Love this game. One of my favorite RPGs. One of the best RPGs on the Super Nintendo, in my opinion. And although the cartridge itself is, I wouldn't call it rare. I mean, it's pretty hard to find, but it's not super rare. Having a complete in-box copy, though, that takes it to a whole nother level. So I'm very proud to have that in the collection. The next two questions also go hand in hand with one another, so we're going to read those both off at once. From Lou's Jam Session, their question is, are you going to do your own video game one day, and what would it be? And then to go along with that, Chronic Spartan asks, when will you start making your indie game? Great questions, guys. And Lou, to answer your question, yes, that's kind of a dream of mine, is to develop my own video game. So I'm going to do it. I'm in the very, very early stages of it, but I am going to do it. I've got a plan in place. I'm working towards gaining the knowledge to be able to start developing a video game. And I've actually got 3 video game ideas in my head. Now, I'm not going to give a whole lot of details. I'm trying to keep most of it under wraps, but one video game idea in my head is going to be sort of a top-down puzzle game with some light action and maybe some light combat to it. But it's going to involve a very overweight cat on a quest to eat all the chicken. I know that sounds really silly and really stupid, but the ideas that I have in my head, I think it could turn into a really fun, quirky, and unique video game. And then one of the other video games ideas I have in my head, it's going to be sort of a 8-bit NES inspired action adventure game. I don't want to say any more than that. And then I've got a video game idea for a kind of an isometric view survival horror game with a lot of really unique gameplay elements and a lot of really unique story elements to it, and it's going to be very story heavy. And I don't want to say any more about that either, but I do have plans to start moving on these projects, starting with the game about the cat. That's going to be the first one because it's going to be the easiest one to create out of the 3. You know, once I really start getting going on the project, I'll probably start talking about it more on the YouTube channel, and maybe even providing you all with some vlogs or some updates about where I'm at. So Chronic Spartan, that probably answers your question on when I'm going to start making my indie game. Honestly, I don't know when I'm going to start, but I do know it's going to be in the near future. I would say probably within the next year, maybe worst case scenario within the next 2 years. I definitely want to get started on it sooner rather than later because, as you know, Chronic, because you are a indie game developer, making video games, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a very time-consuming process, but great questions, guys. Next question comes to us from Darren Likes Danger. Do you ever feel like giving up on collecting? And if so, what keeps you going? That's a great question, Darren, and the answer as of right now is no. I don't feel like giving up on collecting, and I have no intention of giving up on collecting. Now, here lately I have slowed down a lot on collecting just because of, you know, financial things I'm dealing with and things of that nature. But I am not anywhere near giving up on collecting, and the reason is because it's so much fun. I love it so much. You know, it's going out into flea markets and yard sales and pawn shops and thrift stores. It's just a blast. I mean, I just have so much fun doing it, and especially whenever I find a gem out there in the wild or come across a really awesome game lot. It's a feeling that is really hard to describe. It's a rush, it feels good, and it's fun, and it also is a way for me and other collectors to rescue these games from the wild, put them in a good home, whether it's our home or somebody else's home that we put them in. It's a way to get them out of flea market tables, out of garages, and get them somewhere where they will be shown off, played, appreciated, and preserved. Another thing that motivates me to keep collecting is it connects me to my childhood. I've said this before, I think it's very important, especially as we get older. I think it's very important that we stay connected to our childhood in some way. And for me and a lot of other people out there that are getting into collecting at my age or younger or older or what have you, it's a great way to connect with your childhood. And I truly believe that the more you stay connected with your childhood, the slower that you age. I really believe that. Of course, I can't prove it, but you know, I have pretty good reason to believe that. So I think it's very important for us to stay connected to our childhood. Also because, you know, being an adult sucks sometimes, well, let's face it. So it's really nice to be able to get away with a hobby like collecting and playing video games and kind of escape reality for a little bit. The next two questions also go hand in hand, and they are very similar, and those questions are from MFN Techbox and Jorgogo. MFN Techbox asks, which game from your collection is your favorite, the one you play the most? And Jorgogo asks, what is one game or franchise you know so much you could talk about for hours? So the questions may not be as similar as I thought, but the answer is the same for both questions. One of my favorite games of all time, and one of the games that I've played the most throughout my career as a gamer, it's not really a career, I mean it could be, anyways, is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. In my opinion, it's one of the best games ever made. I think it's a damn near masterpiece. And it's a game that I just can't stay away from. It's a game that I play time and time again. I've probably beat Resident Evil 4 on various consoles. This is no exaggeration. Somewhere between 20 and 30 times I've beat this game. I'm literally a walking player's guide for Resident Evil 4, Jorgogo. If you're playing the game in front of me, I could tell you where every enemy is, where every treasure is, where every secret is. I could tell you all the strategies to get through all the different scenarios in the game. I am a walking player's guide for this game, and I love it so much. And I haven't played the Switch version yet. Probably because I was pissed off that it didn't have a physical release, but I need to fix that. At any rate, Resident Evil 4 is a game that will always be special to me. It's a game that I will always treasure, and I will always come back to time and time again. Alright, so the next three people are all asking YouTube related questions, and they're all great questions. Let's start with the Cat of Awesome. The Cat of Awesome asks, how long have you been collecting? What is your favorite thing about making videos? And how long do you spend editing post/videos? To answer your first question, I've been collecting hardcore since 2016. So it's been almost 4 years now. I think in August it will be 4 years since I started collecting. Obviously things escalated really quickly and sort of got out of control because I've built a very large collection over the course of 4 years. But that's when I started collecting. It was roughly August of 2016. Now, what is my favorite thing about making videos? Well, you know, to be honest with you, it's just very fun, very gratifying, because I think as humans we all want to create something. We have that just in us, that just innate need within us to want to create something. And throughout my life, I haven't really created stuff as much as I should. There have been some stuff throughout my life that I've created, but never to this degree with the YouTube channel. So my favorite thing about making videos is just making the videos. It's so much fun planning the video, what the video is going to be about, how it's going to be structured, what I'm going to talk about, you know, any little thing that I'm going to add to the video. It's just, the whole process is just so much fun. It's very gratifying. It makes me feel like I'm doing something productive. And I think that's also very important in life, is to feel like you're doing something productive. And the last question she asked was, how long do you spend editing posts / videos? So I actually have a partner in the YouTube channel. You all have not seen him a whole lot yet. You may have seen him a couple of times here and there briefly off camera, but I have an editor. He's my nephew. He edits videos. I also edit some of the videos. We kind of divide and conquer as far as the editing goes. But you know, how long I spend editing a video or how long he spends editing a video really just depends on the video and how long the video is going to be, how complicated it's going to be to edit the video. There's a lot of things that go into play. I've spent up to 4 or 5 hours before editing a single video. I'm sure he has as well. It just depends on the video. Next up, another YouTube related question from the Big Retro Show, and Los from Big Retro Show asks, what advice would you give to new YouTubers who are interested in starting a gaming channel? That is a fantastic question, and I've got a couple of bits of advice that I would give to people that are interested in starting a gaming YouTube channel. And the number one thing is just do it. Just start doing it. Your videos are more than likely not going to be that great at first. My videos in the beginning were not very good. They weren't terrible, but they were just not that good. Look at a few quick clips from my first couple of videos. What's up everybody, RetroWolf88 here, and today we are going to talk about my top 10 most anticipated games of 2019. Teen release can be played with up to 4 players, and it's coming to us from Koei Tecmo and Team Ninja. Yeah, that was not good. My on-camera presence was just so bland. I had no energy. I couldn't be myself, you know, because I was new to being in front of a camera. And you know, the video quality wasn't that great, the audio quality wasn't that great, the lighting wasn't that great, the content itself wasn't that great. It was just, you know, it was all around not that great. But here's the thing, anytime you're starting something new, you're probably not going to be that good at it at first. The important thing is to start doing it and analyze it every step of the way to figure out how you can make it better. But you have to be honest with yourself. You absolutely cannot lie to yourself and look at it and tell yourself that it's amazing when it's not. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be able to look at it objectively so that you can decide what you need to do to make it better. However much it hurts when you start, don't be afraid to tell yourself, that sucks. How can I make it better? So, but you know, the main point I'm trying to get across is you just have to start doing it. Even if you don't do a good job at first, you will get better. The more and more you do it, the more practice you get and the more you learn. Speaking of learning, that brings me to my second tip. Before you get started, and you know, don't let that delay you getting started, but before you get started, start looking up some things about starting a YouTube channel. Start looking, there's tons of resources out there. Everything from YouTube videos to articles to books. There's so many resources out there, most of which are free. There's really no reason for you to not be able to get a good baseline of knowledge to be able to put together a good product in the beginning. Well, you know, like I said, it's probably not going to be great, but the more knowledge you have going into it, the better you can make it when you initially dip your toes. And even once you get started and start getting good at it, never stop learning. I learn every single video that I make, I learn something new. And I continue to try to pursue more knowledge on the internet and learn more and more and more, whether it's video editing, on-camera presence, you know, writing a script, making good content, the lighting, making the video higher quality. There's just so many avenues that you could start learning more in to make your videos better and better and better. And that's really the goal, is to never stop improving. No matter how big you get, you want to keep improving, because otherwise what's the point? You can't get stagnant. There's no point in reaching a plateau and then just going straight. You want to reach a plateau and then keep going up. You don't want to, you know what I mean? So those are really my 2 big tips. Start doing it and educate yourself. Gain the knowledge that you need. And I do have one more piece of advice. Have fun with it. Make sure you enjoy doing it. If you're making videos and you don't enjoy it, if you're not having fun, then it might not be for you. And also, if you're not having fun and you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be able to create good content. So you have to have fun and you have to be passionate about it. And the next YouTube related question comes to us from Albert Cerna. And his questions are, what inspired you to start your channel? And what are some of your favorite YouTube channels? You know, as far as what inspired me, I've always wanted to do something on YouTube. Even before I started collecting, initially I wanted to create videos teaching people how to play card and board games, because I'm also an avid card and board game collector. I have a huge collection of card and board games. I love playing tabletop games, and I'm very good at teaching people how to play games that are new to a board game or a card game. So initially that's what I wanted to do, and I did try it. I actually put out a couple of videos on an old YouTube channel and tried it, and then I just dropped off. I don't know why. I can't remember why. But then when I started collecting, in the back of my mind, I sort of wanted to start a YouTube channel. But really, it was my editor / nephew who he really inspired me to start the channel. Not only did he inspire me, but also the collection inspired me. Because what's the point of having a collection of something if you can't do something productive with it? Now, obviously, collecting video games, you get to play those video games, you get to enjoy them, but I wanted to bring all of my knowledge of the gaming industry and of video games as a whole and utilize my collection to create a YouTube channel and bring content that hopefully people enjoyed. So really, it was my nephew / editor that inspired me, and also my collection. The next question comes to us from my good friend Gabe, HG_boxing89 on Instagram, and his question is, which one is your favorite? Collecting video games, playing video games, or making YouTube videos about video games? I love these hypothetical questions, and Gabe, that is a good one, my friend. That is a really good one, and I'm going to kind of think outside of the box and twist your question around so that I can pick all 3 as my favorite. So get this, Gabe. Out of all 3 of those, my favorite would have to be making YouTube videos about video games. And the reason is, if I'm making YouTube videos about video games, then I'm more than likely also going to be collecting video games, and I'm also going to be playing video games. I got you, buddy. I got you. No, in all seriousness, making YouTube videos about video games has been amazing. I love it so much. It's led to so many great things. It's led to me meeting so many great people, and it gives me an excuse to keep on collecting and collecting more, to keep on playing video games and play video games more. So they all kind of go hand in hand with one another. So I can't not pick that as my favorite, because by picking that as my favorite, I'm also picking the first 2 as my favorite. So great question, Gabe. Next questions comes to us from my good friend Doug Brown. His questions are, what is your 10-year plan for the channel? After you've completed your Black Label North American GameCube collection, what is the next console you plan to finish a collection for? Have you thought about live streaming games? If so, what games would you choose? Now, as far as my 10-year plan for the channel, Doug, I've kind of touched on this a little bit. I just want to make it bigger and better. I want to keep improving with each video and just improving the quality and the content of the channel, and adding new content to the channel, like a podcast, and maybe some short films in the future. And you know, I can't say with certainty that I'll still be doing YouTube over the next 10 years. The plan is to still be definitely having an online presence in some way, whether it's YouTube or some other avenue. And who's to say YouTube will even be around in the next 10 years? You just never know. Now, as far as what other consoles I want to collect for, I touched on that earlier, the Wii U and the Sega Master System. And have I thought about live streaming games? Well, yes, Doug, I have. You're watching this on a Monday, and the previous Friday, I did the very first live stream on the channel, and we played Super Mario Maker 2. And I'm going to try my best, I can't make promises, but I'm going to try my best to live stream on YouTube every Friday night at around 10 p.m. There may be some Fridays when I can't do it because life, but for the most part, I'm going to try to live stream every Friday. So if anybody wants to drop in and say hi and hang out in the live stream, please do so. I would love to have you, and I would love to chat with you. As far as what games I would play, I'm going to try to bounce around between retro games and modern games and indie games as well. So, you know, it just depends on whatever I'm in the mood to play, to be honest. Sometimes I might take requests. It just depends. The next question comes to us from Do You Nerd. Do You Nerd's question is, you're clearly retro like the wolf, but are you hungry like the wolf as well? What a silly question. What a silly question, but I like it. And to be honest with you, I don't really know how to answer that, but I will say this. I really love pizza. Like, really love pizza. Let's just put it this way. I literally ate a pizza for dinner the night before last. I ate a pizza for lunch yesterday, and I ate a pizza for dinner yesterday. So for the past 2 days, I've consumed 3 pizzas. Now, they're not full-size pizzas. They're smaller pizzas, but still, this guy right here can put down some freaking pizza. The next question comes to us from Melly Playful. Melly's questions are, what was the first game you played that you hated? What was one you loved? Those are great questions. So Melly, the first game that I played that I hated was Friday the 13th on the NES. Now the reason that I hated it, the game, is not necessarily that it was a bad game, which some people think it's a bad game. I don't think it's as bad as people say, but not necessarily that it was a bad game, but the reason that I hated it when I was a kid is because it scared me. This game freaked me out whenever I was a kid. You know, the atmosphere of it, the music, the fact that you never knew when Jason was going to pop up and attack you, it scared me. So because of that, I hated it, because when I was a kid, I did not like scary things like this, because my brothers, when they found out about it, they would terrorize me about it. So, yeah, this was probably the first game that I ever remember hating. Now, as far as the first game I remember loving, well, that would have to be Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. I've played this game since I was a kid. It was one of the first games I ever played. Not the first game, but one of the first games I ever played. And it's the first game that I really remember just absolutely falling in love with. And I've beat it so many times. To this day, I can sit down and play Super Mario Bros. 3 and just have an absolute blast. So, yeah, this was really probably the first game that I loved. The next question comes to us from GeekyN8. GeekyN8's question is, in the era of endless remakes, what game would you love to be remade and why? So that is a great question, and the game that I would have to pick would have to be Super Mario 64. Now, Super Mario 64, the original game, love it. One of my favorite games of all time. I consider it to be a masterpiece. A lot of people don't agree, but I consider it to be one of the best 3D platformers. Certainly one of the best 3D Mario games in my opinion. And I have so many fond memories of it, but that still doesn't change the fact that I would love to see it remade, and I think it's about time for that to happen. Now, what I would like to see in the remake for Super Mario 64 is I would like to see Nintendo remake it in the Super Mario Odyssey engine with those graphics. I would like to see them smooth out the controls a little bit, make them a little bit tighter. I would also like to see them add some new content, so maybe some new paintings to go into, or maybe add a few extra stars to every single painting, or maybe add some more secrets, or maybe some additional playable characters like in the Nintendo DS version. And I think that if Nintendo did it right, oh, it could be so good. It could be so amazing. So, and it might happen, because there are some strong rumors right now of a 3D Mario game collection in HD coming to the Nintendo Switch, and maybe in that collection, instead of just an HD remaster of Super Mario 64, maybe they will completely remake the game in a new engine. But I'm not going to get my hopes up. The next question comes to us from Grindhead Jim. I also met Jim on the set of the Game Chasers movie. Super nice guy. He is actually in a big role in the movie that I can't talk about, but he does an amazing job, and I can't wait for you to see the movie to see Jim's role and his acting, because it's pretty awesome. But I'm very fortunate to have been able to meet Jim and talk to him a lot on the set of the movie. But let's go ahead and get to his question. Jim's question is, if you could tell yourself something in the past about collecting or content making, what would it be and why? So let's start with collecting. If I could tell myself something in the past about collecting, I would tell myself to not sell or get rid of any video games, even the boxes, the inserts, the cases, all of it. For consoles, for games, even for controllers, I would tell myself to keep all of it, because unfortunately, when I was a kid and a teenager, I got rid of it all. I literally have no video game that I had when I was a kid or a teenager. I have none. And that makes me very sad, but you know, you can't dwell on the past. But if I could go back in time, I would smack the hell out of myself and say, boy, you better not sell or get rid of any of that shit. Keep it all. So that's what I would tell myself about collecting. Now, as far as content making, I would probably tell myself to invest in some better equipment before starting, or maybe to gain some more knowledge. But then again, if you do that, then you might not start as quickly, or you might not start at all. So I don't know. You said that I can't tell myself to start sooner, but honestly, that probably is what I would tell myself. As far as content making, I would tell myself to start making content on YouTube as soon as I started collecting video games. The next question comes to us from Return of the Hatamata, and their question is as follows. If there was a game based off of you, what game would it be? One of my favorite, or a couple of my favorite genres lately in video games are 2D platformers, with 2D action platformers, and roguelikes. I really like a good roguelike game. A couple other things in real life that I really like is pizza, as I mentioned earlier. And I also play guitar. I've been playing guitar since I was 16, so like 16 years now, almost 16 years I've been playing guitar. So if there were a video game based off me, it would be a 2D roguelike action platformer involving pizza and guitars. I don't know what that video game would look like or what the mechanics would be, but somebody out there could make it. The next question comes to us from Beyond Useless Gaming. And Speedy from Beyond Useless Gaming asks, what is the worst console you've played, and why is it N64? Speedy. First of all, it's not N64. I love the Nintendo 64. You're the one that, for whatever reason, seems to not be a fan of the Nintendo 64. And if it's the controller, well, you know, guess what, buddy? You can buy controllers for the Nintendo 64 that are regular controllers. So, Speedy, I challenge you to pick yourself up one of these, a regular controller for the Nintendo 64, and give it another chance. But to answer your question, the worst console I've played, and I may end up getting some hate for this, and you know what? I don't really care. And, you know, it's my opinion, so it is what it is. But one of the worst consoles I've ever played is the Atari 2600. I just don't like it. I do not like the Atari 2600. I do not find, some of the games are fun, but the majority of the games I don't find to be fun at all. I do not like the controllers. I'm just not a fan of the Atari. I don't even have an Atari game in my collection. I don't even have an Atari. I did, and I gave them away for free. That's how much I don't like the Atari. Just not a fan. And maybe it's because I didn't grow up with it. I have zero nostalgia for the Atari. It was before my time. But even now, I just don't like it. That may change one day. Maybe in the future. Maybe I'll give the Atari 2600 a second chance and I'll learn to love it. But as of right now, it's my least favorite console. The next question comes to us from ISD Games. What was the hardest game for you to find for your complete GameCube set? I would say, surprisingly, the hardest game for me to find, even on eBay. I could barely find a copy of this game on eBay, and that's City Racer. A lot of people have never heard of City Racer on the GameCube, and a lot of people that, even people that know a lot about the GameCube, don't realize that this game has become super rare, and the price for City Racer is skyrocketing, especially for a complete in box copy like this. So I spent months scouring eBay for a good complete copy of City Racer, and it took a while. I finally found one. I got it for a decent price. And it was one of the last games that I got for the GameCube collection, and it was just incredibly hard to find. So GameCube collectors, if you're going for a complete collection, you better snatch up City Racer sooner rather than later, because good luck. The next question comes to us from Ellie, and Ellie's question is, if you could live in the world of one of the games you own, which world would you pick? Ellie, that's a really awesome question, and I appreciate you asking such a unique hypothetical question. And really, I'm going to pick two game worlds. I would have to pick either Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, and the reason for that is because everything is just so chilled out and stress-free in both of those games. I mean, you literally you face practically no danger. There's some in Stardew Valley when you go into the mine, but even if you lose all your health, you don't die. You just pass out, or you get knocked out and you wake up in your house the next day. So Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, I would choose those as the game world that I would like to live in, because they're so fun and cheerful and stress free, and you don't have to worry about anything, and there's still plenty of fun, enjoyable things to do and people to talk with and interact with. Well, animals in Animal Crossing, sometimes people. But yeah, I would pick both of those just because I like the idea of living in a universe where there's pretty much zero stress, you never die, and you never have to really worry about much of anything. Next up, a very interesting question from my cousin Nathan Kramer, and he asks, how has collecting impacted your relationship with your wife? Gee, thanks Nathan for asking that question, I guess. You know, to be honest with you, it hasn't really impacted it all that much. I mean, she's not really into gaming as much as I am. She doesn't collect, so it's kind of just my hobby. She does get annoyed with me sometimes, depending on, you know, how involved I am with the hobby or how much money I'm spending on the collection. That has led to a few annoyances, but you know, for the most part, it's been fine. Actually, here lately, she's been involved in it a little bit more because she's helping me sell video games. I have a bunch of excess video games that are duplicates or just games I don't care about keeping in my inventory that I sell to try to recoup some of the money that I put into the collection. And she's helping me sell some of those, and I give her part of the profit for the sale. So that's been pretty fun and interesting. But you know, hasn't really been much impact. And the final question in today's video is a doozy, and it is from my good friend Carl, aka Retro Gaming Zone. As something I've personally noticed, it would be awesome to hear your input on this. The pandemic has really shot the value of games up. Why do you think this is? How do you feel about the current pandemic in regards to its impact on retro game prices? Do you think these prices will continue to climb, become the new norm, or return to where they were? How do you think the pricing of games impacts the collector's market or those who want to get into retro collecting? Do you see this being a trend globally, or is it more so something I noticed due to the fact that I'm from New York City, the current epicenter? Woo, Carl, you really laid it on me there, buddy. First of all, I do want to say to you, Carl, please be safe out there in New York City, because I know things are crazy there right now with the virus. So, you know, stay safe, keep your family safe, and just do the best you can to get through this, man. And you will get through it, and things will get better. Now, on to your litany of questions that are going to require some thought from the old noggin, even though there's really not much going on in there. So the first thing you ask is, how do I feel about the pandemic in regards to its impact on video game prices? Honestly, it's kind of funny because I thought the opposite was going to happen. I thought that because of the pandemic, a lot of collectors were going to be selling their collections on eBay to try to make money because maybe they lost their job temporarily or what have you, and that the market would get flooded and that the prices would go down because there's just so much out there. And also I thought demand would go down because people wouldn't want to spend the money on video games, and the opposite happened. It turns out that, you know, there are more people selling games on eBay now, I think slightly more than before the pandemic, but it turns out that the prices actually started going up on games. And I think the reason that the prices started going up is because I think the demand went up. I think because people are stuck at home more, they have more time to play games, and they, you know, maybe they've got a small collection and they want to start building that collection and playing some of the games that they had when they were younger, so they go on eBay and buy the stuff. So I think that the reason that the prices are going up on eBay, and look, I'm no expert. I could be blowing smoke up everybody's asses, including my own right now. I could be completely wrong on this, but my theory is that the reason the prices are going up is because demand is actually going up, because more people are stuck at home and they want stuff to do to keep themselves busy and keep themselves sane. Now, do I think these prices will continue to climb, become the new norm, or return to where they were? I honestly think once the pandemic dies down and once society gets back to normal, I think the prices will start to come back down and start to level out a little bit more. It might take a while for that to happen, but I don't think this is going to become the new norm. I do think the prices will start to come down. But again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They could keep going up, or they could stay where they are right now. It's really a hard thing to predict, and I'm no expert, but I feel like the prices will come back down. Now, how do I think that this stuff will impact game collectors? You know, that's kind of a tricky one, because normally I would say that the prices of games on eBay or anywhere online shouldn't really impact your ability to gain a collection, because you can go to flea markets and pawn shops and thrift stores and yard sales, and you can find these things. You can find the deals. The deals are out there, or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or what have you. The problem is right now you can't do that because nobody's doing these things because of the pandemic. So right now your only option pretty much is to buy games online, or that's the #1 option. So right now I could see that impacting people's ability to build a collection or get into collecting, because you're going to have to pay a premium. You know, if you want to buy these games, you're going to have to pay a premium because the prices are going up online. But once the pandemic starts to die down, society gets back to normal, which that will happen, I think that things will get better. You'll be able to go to flea markets again and pawn shops and yard sales and all this stuff, and you'll be able to find the games without having to go online and pay these high prices. But I hope that answers all your questions, Carl. Thank you for the awesome questions. And again, brother, please stay safe out there in New York City right now, because I know things are crazy, especially some of the things that you've told me in our conversation. So stay safe. There you have it, folks, the 1,000 subscriber special Q&A. I really enjoy doing these Q&As. It's so much fun. I have a blast answering each and every one of your questions, and I will definitely do another Q&A in the future. Thank you so much to everybody who submitted a question for the Q&A, and anybody that missed out on submitting a question for the Q&A, there will be another one when I hit another milestone, because Q&As are fun. I mean, they are, honestly, and they give you a chance to get to know me a little bit better and have me talk to the camera in an unscripted fashion. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and hit that like button. It means a lot to me. Thank you to everybody that supports the channel. It really means a lot to me that you support the channel, no matter how small or how big it is. I love you all equally. And if you're new here, if you enjoyed what you saw, consider subscribing so that you can join the RetroWolf family. And until next time, folks, keep playing games and having a good time, and I will see you all in the next video. Later.